Rory McIlroy just went from great to all-time great. Last year he completed the career Grand Slam, becoming one of 6 players to win all 4 major championships. But this year, he joined an even more exclusive club. Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Sir Nick Fowler. Those are the only 4 players to win back-to-back Masters. No one can question him now. This man is a golfing legend, and he has been the face of the sport for over a decade. He was dubbed as the next Tiger Woods, and while he hasn't matched him in accomplishments, he has risen to the role by putting golf on his shoulders. So what if he never existed? With everything McIlroy has done for the game, where would it be if he was never born? Where would the PGA Tour be? What would have happened to the Ryder Cup? And which players would have risen to great heights without McIlroy beating them to trophies? Let me explain to you why golf never needed the next Tiger Woods. What it needed was Rory McIlroy. I've taken Rory McIlroy out of golfing history. Everyone who ever came second to him on the PGA Tour or in majors gets a win added to their career total. And if a player came tied second, I'll give them a half win. That way, there's still the same number of wins to go around. And when I did that, it surprised me just how much the old guard benefited. First, Tiger Woods, who finished second to Rory McIlroy at the 2012 Honda Classic. This was a classic Tiger performance, as he shot a final round 62 to hunt down a young McIlroy. Rory did just enough to hang on by 2 strokes, but if he never existed, then Tiger would have gone into a playoff with Tom Gillis. So he gets a half win in this scenario, which would have separated him from Sam Snead as the most prolific winner in PGA Tour history. And the player who finished second to Rory more than anyone else? Phil Mickelson. He came second to McIlroy 3 times, and in this scenario he gains 2.5 more PGA Tour wins. He would also have won 7 majors, as he finished second to McIlroy at the 2014 PGA Championship. Right now he's tied with McIlroy on 6, but without his existence, Mickelson moves up to 7th in the major championship wins list. But let's be honest, it's not like Tiger and Phil spend their days and nights thinking about how great they could have been without Rory. Tiger didn't get to 83 wins because of a lot of factors before Rory McIlroy. But there are players who would have achieved lifelong dreams if not for Rory. Let's start here, with Justin Rose. Rose's relationship with the Masters is agonising. He's been incredible at Augusta, but has never won a green jacket despite finishing second 3 times, and 3rd this year. But without Rory, he wins the Masters in 2025. He'd have stormed into the lead on Sunday with 10 birdies, snatching the win from Bryson DeChambeau. This would also have made Ludwig Åberg's collapse on the final 2 holes all the more shocking. And Rose isn't the only one who would have given anything to beat Rory at a major. Somehow, Rickie Fowler didn't win one in 2014, despite finishing in the top 5 at all 4 of them. The young superstar burst onto the scene and looked like the next big thing, but the biggest win of his career remains the Players' Championship in 2015. But he finished tied second to McIlroy at the 2014 Open Championship. Who knows what could have happened in his career if he gets the win at Royal Liverpool. And who was he tied with? Sergio Garcia, the nearly man of golf for 2 decades. Garcia suffered heartbreaking loss after heartbreaking loss in his career, and for a long time he was the best to never win a major. He came tied second to McIlroy by 2 strokes at the 2014 Open Championship, so he could have captured his first major 3 years before he eventually won the Masters. Also, a special shout out goes to Englishman David Lynn. He had by far the best major finish of his career at the 2012 PGA Championship. He came second to McIlroy, who won by a mile, but if Rory never existed, then we would have had one of the most unlikely major winners in the sport's history. It might seem laughable now that the PGA Tour could have lost its battle to LIV Golf, but let's not underestimate the state that the tour was in when LIV was first launched. Fans thought the PGA Tour was trapped in its traditions but still overly commercial. The players felt underpaid. There's a reason that big stars jumped ship. But with the PGA Tour facing an existential threat, it was McIlroy who stood up and set up a front to LIV. He was the face of the tour, while the CEO, Jay Monahan, frankly floundered. Monahan's popularity went through the floor, so McIlroy was the front man, with the strength to step up on the podium every week to face a tidal wave of questions. Without Rory, who knows what could have happened? It's hard to imagine Scottie Scheffler or anyone else on the tour having the gravitas or even the willingness to take on LIV in this way. More players likely jumped ship without the anchor, McIlroy, holding the fort, and LIV Golf would have posed a far greater threat to the PGA Tour than it did in reality. Add to that Rory's back-to-back Masters wins in 2025 and 2026, which were the hammer that drove the nail into the coffin, and we have so much to thank Rory for. Europe have dominated the Ryder Cup in recent years, but without McIlroy's existence, who knows if that would still be the case. The team would lose its soul. Since his debut in 2010, Rory has been the bridge between the golden generation of Sergio Garcia and Colin Montgomery and the modern era. Without him, would Europe still have held the fort on home soil so effectively? Rory has competed in 8 Ryder Cups. In those events, he has won 6, with a record of 19 wins, 14 losses and 5 ties. He was pivotal in Europe's road win at the Miracle of Medina, scoring 3 points and winning his singles match during a historic Sunday comeback. And he played the leading role at Bethpage Black last year, soaking up the full force of a hostile road crowd, spurring the team on and earning 3.5 points in the process. Europe likely folds last year without Rory. And more importantly, it removes Rory from historic pairings. His partnership with Tommy Fleetwood is one of the greatest in the tournament's history, and set the tone in both 2023 and 2025 for Europe to dominate the team events. For the last 15 years, Rory has been the general of the European team room. He is the player that the younger generation grew up idolising. Without him, Team Europe would have had to rely on a fading Ian Poulter and Sergio Garcia for much longer. When those players defected to LIV, the team would have been effectively rudderless. The reality is that without McIlroy, the Americans likely would have broken their away game curse long ago. He is the man that Team USA must go through, and they have never been able to across the pond. The Ryder Cup without Rory McIlroy is a quieter, far less combustible, and significantly less European-dominated affair. Europe wouldn't just be missing a golfer, they would be missing their identity. Rory McIlroy was meant to be the next Tiger, and maybe we haven't been fully appreciative of how much he has lived up to that role. Yes, he doesn't have 15 majors or 82 PGA Tour wins, but he has stepped into Tiger's shoes as the face of golf. Without Rory McIlroy, the PGA Tour would have lacked a charismatic superstar after Woods stepped away from the limelight. When Tiger's dominance began to wane due to injuries and a personal scandal in 2010, the tour was desperate for a successor who possessed the same gravity. Without Rory, the early 2010s would have been dominated by a rotation of shorter-lived world number ones like Luke Donald or Lee Westwood. While technically brilliant, they just lacked the star power that Tiger provided. Rory's wins at the 2011 US Open and 2012 PGA Championship gave fans a reason to keep watching. He was the only player that played and behaved like a young Tiger. Rory took the torch. Without him, the tour would have felt increasingly cold and corporate. From a business standpoint, Rory was the primary reason sponsors like Nike and Omega stayed heavily invested in the post-Tiger world. Without him, the TV contracts of the mid-2010s likely would never have reached their record highs. By the time Scottie Scheffler emerged as a dominant force, there might not have been a stable, high-value platform left for him to inherit. In short, Jack and Tiger built the house, but Rory kept the lights on. Without him, the PGA Tour would have just spent the last 15 years as a niche sport rather than growing into a global entertainment juggernaut. When we look back at the history of the game, it's easy to get caught up in the cold hard numbers. We look at trophies, the major titles, the elusive green jacket that he finally secured in 2025. But as we've seen, the Rory effect goes far deeper than that. Without McIlroy, the record books would look totally different. Tiger would stand alone at the top of the wins list, Phil would have another major, and Rickie Fowler might have had the career-defining moment that he always deserved. But the sport itself would be completely unrecognisable. Without Rory, the PGA Tour might have buckled under the weight of the LIV transition. The Ryder Cup could be a trophy that the Europeans haven't touched in a decade. And more importantly, the bridge that Tiger Woods built to the future would have just crumbled. Rory protected the soul of the game. He was the only person with the talent to be a superstar and the courage to be a human being at the same time. He gave us a reason to care when Tiger couldn't, and he gave the tour a backbone when it needed one most. And in 2026, he stands at the absolute peak of his powers with a legacy that is finally complete, and we can say for certain that golf didn't just need its next Tiger, it needed Rory. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out the other videos on this channel. I'll see you in the next one.